Thank you, Tom. In this particular presentation, we'll be talking specifically about a layer, which is, we've talked about multiple layers, encoding, fonts, keyboards, CLDR as well. This particular layer we'll be talking about is the domain names, which we are all very familiar with. Domain names are, of course, used on the internet to access information. And it's equally important for the domain names to be in local languages as well. We are very used to having domain names in English, even when we are accessing content in local languages. I guess what I'll share today is some details on the work which is ongoing. I'm going to start my timer as well. To get these domain names available in local languages. So, of course, I think this is something we're all very familiar with. We live in a very multilingual world with millions of speakers speaking some particular languages, but also there are many other languages spoken by hundreds of thousands of speakers or thousands of speakers. And eventually the idea is that if you want to make domain names or internet accessible to all these people, we need to make sure that the addressing system is also available in those languages. So a linguistically diverse internet significantly contributes towards a knowledge-based society. This has been known to us for a very long time. This is a commitment we've made as a global community through the WSIS process. My colleague Tawfiq also mentioned the UNESCO's multilingual recommendations on multilingual cyberspace. So these are recommendations or commitments we've made as a global community. And I'm just going to share some details on where we are and what are the current challenges and how do we resolve them. So, currently we, out of a total population of about 8 billion people, about 66% of us are online. Those who are online actually not only speak English, but also our own local languages. And then most of the people who are not yet online are coming from, mostly from Asia and Africa, and they're actually speaking mostly in their local languages. So bringing these next billion people online and also, I guess, enabling the existing population to access information online, it's very important to allow domain names to be in local languages as well. So this is work which has been going on for some time. There was some initial work by Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, back in 2003, the IDNA 2003 standard, which was revised in 2008. At ICANN, where I come from, we are obviously implementing this standard to make sure that domain names are available in all these languages. These domain names in local languages, we normally refer to them as internationalized domain names, and then emails associated with them are normally referred to as internationalized emails, email addresses. In what ICANN and its communities done back in starting in 2009 and then in 2012, there was an expansion in the top-level domain space where many new suffixes in domain names were introduced, like .london, .sport. So we're more familiar with .com and .org, which are more conventional. But now it's in 2012 there were more than 1,200 new suffixes or top-level domains which were introduced, which bring more representation of cultures, brands, geographies, communities, special interests to have their own particular suffix to represent them online. Of them, currently 151 of these top-level domain names are in local languages, of which 91 represent the generic top-level domains and 60 represent country codes. Here are the examples. So this says 62 are successfully evaluated, out of which 60 are currently delegated or operational. And you can see that in some countries you have many different languages, so they've applied for multiple top-level domains. Similarly, in the generic space, there are also many different top-level domains in different languages and scripts across the world. So currently these 151 top-level domain names are in 37 different languages and 23 different scripts. So what does it take to get this done? To allow domain names in local languages, the standard is based on Unicode as a baseline standard, and then there is an additional layer of standard which I shared with you, the IDNA 2008 standard, which was developed by IETF, that sets a second, in a way, baseline on top of Unicode on what is possible and what is allowed to, which characters are allowed to make a domain name and which characters should not, for example, be in a domain name. And then in addition to that, what we need is even more strict definition of how a domain label actually can be formed. And those definitions we normally refer to as label generation rules. And these have been developed for top-level strings and the second-level string. So if you have example.com, example is the second-level string, and .com, the com is the top-level string. And there's slightly varying rules for those two levels. And over the years, we've actually worked with the communities which use these scripts to develop very clear rules on how a domain name can be formed in that particular script. And that includes defining three things: the repertoire, which means the code points which can be used, but also domain names need to be very unique and not confusing. So there are sometimes different code points which are considered the same by a reader. So we need to address that confusability in domain names, and we do that through variant code points, identifying variant code points. And then also we define particular rules on how a particular label can be well formed, and those rules normally come from the script particular properties. Just to give you some examples, this is a solution we have for Arabic top-level domains, not formed by ICANN. What we do is we facilitate the community discussion. So for this process, for the Arabic solution, we actually had a panel which worked for about 3 years, about 35 experts coming from 22 different countries which use Arabic script. And they went through the Unicode standard and identified the characters which are highlighted in green, which they said could be used in domain names. Some of them, those in pink, were decided that they do not qualify because of the standard. So, for example, digits are not allowed for top-level domains. And then these blue, light blue code points, the community decided that at this time there is probably no need for them to be used in top-level domains. That definition can change for second level because there's different design considerations. But again, this is something which the community tells us. We encode that, and then again, it's a iterative process, so community can come and update this, but in a way that we want to make sure that domain labels which are created, the solution is secure and stable. We also have to deal with variants across languages. So the variants can occur within a script, but also across scripts. So if you look at the top here, you'll see epic, for example, in English, that string is formed using Latin alphabet, but if you look at the other one, which looks like APIC, but that's totally in Cyrillic. So we need to look at cross-script confusion and address that. There can be within script confusion as well, or variants. So if you see example of Chinese, simplified Chinese and traditional Chinese, those characters are different, but they still mean the same thing to the Chinese audience. So they need to be declared as variants. And the example at the bottom is for Arabic script, where the same string actually can be written in using different Unicode code points, and they need to be catered to as well, so that these strings obviously are managed and controlled by same entities rather than registered to different entities, which can eventually create confusion. So it addresses both security and usability kind of issues. So we, and I guess the third category is rules, which are there to make sure that these strings are well formed. So some of these scripts have actually specific rules. So for example, in Thai, you can not have two vowels in sequence, but you can actually have a single vowel followed by a consonant. And in this case, these two vowels, when they combine together, they look like a single vowel, which is also encoded separately. So instead of allowing both options, which could have been dealt with variants, the script community decided that they do not want to allow one sequence versus only allow this particular word, cat, to be written using a particular vowel. So those kind of constraints are put into rules for that particular language. So the label generation rules for each script which generated, this was generated by the community, and it includes all these three definitions: the repertoire, the variants, and the rules. So with this, basically, it's now possible to have domain names which are secure and stable to use. What we did was we actually went ahead and just registered some domain names. These are all working domain names which exist. These are just test domain names we've registered. And we've used that and set up an email server and set up some email addresses in local language as well. So these email addresses are all functional as well. So you can actually send email to this, and it will generate an auto response to you saying that, we've received your email and, this works. Anyway, so this is technology which is already possible. Of course, with this technology, it also brings a lot of business opportunity for people, because this opens up internet to a wider variety of population across the globe. And here are some uses of this, which are real examples in the world. So is a domain name being used for a temple in Thailand. It's a Thai domain name. Similarly, this is an example of an insurance company. So it's an example of how domain names are being used in business in Chinese. And then here's an example of a government in India using domain name in Devanagari, Hindi, for its government website. So those are some of the examples of how these domain names are actually getting used across the globe. But it's not all good news. We have some challenges, and that's what actually was being referred to by my colleague earlier, Dr. Tawfiq, that there is this universal access acceptance problem, where technology downstream, so these are available, but technology downstream does not recognize them properly. So there is a display issue that instead of a Thai domain name, they are displaying it as an underlying A label, or and that's not like human readable, of course. And so the display is not being done properly by applications. The other problem is that email addresses are not recognized, so you can go to websites and enter, sign up, try to sign up with your email address, and they'll say that the email address is invalid because they think that emails are still only in ASCII and cannot be Unicode email addresses. Or the linkification doesn't work, so you send some text on an app, and some of these get linkified where you can actually click and then go to the particular website, but some of them are not recognized as links. And if you see this example, the issue is not only for internationalized domain names, it's also for regular ASCII domain names with new suffixes or top-level domains like .de or .tube, for example. So what we did was we went around and did some testing just to show what the status of affairs is. So we went to, for example, we tested about 2,000 websites, 1,000 websites from most frequently used global websites. And then what we also did was went to 20 countries and picked 50 websites from each of those countries to, from government, media, business, different sectors. And we, for each of those websites, normally there's a contact us page where you can put in an email address. And we tried different email addresses and found out that about 10% of the websites out there currently accept internationalized email addresses. Which is very low. So 900 out of 1,000 websites will reject my Arabic email address and say that it's not valid, whereas it is actually valid and it works. Similarly, we have this data where we have MX records and zone files to register email servers. So we ran it through all the zone files for all the generic top-level domains, about 35 million records. So pointing to 35 million or similar number of email servers, and we found out about 22% of these mail servers accept internationalized email addresses, and others will just bounce that email. So eventually applications need to accept, validate, process, store, and display data, domain names, and email addresses properly. All these different, this is obviously a role which all of us together have to play. There are different things we can do as different stakeholders in this process. One of my colleagues was talking about, this internationalizations, internationalized domain names, email addresses not being taught as part of curriculum in universities, so that's something we're working on as well. And introducing curriculum in universities on internationalized domain names and email address internationalization. And we're also, as Dr. Tawfiq pointed out, collaborating with UNESCO to try to reach out to their member states to raise these issues. There's a lot of other things we do. So we organize a UA Day on 28th March, and around that day, this year we received about 110 proposals. We are supporting 58 proposals to hold UA Day awareness events across 50 countries and partnering with UNESCO on that. And we are also going and fixing open source software and talking to big tech organizations to support domain names and internationalized email addresses. So, if you need more information, please connect with us. You can email uaprogram@icann.org, and there's much more information available on this online. So here are some links. Thank you.